Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel today. You already know who I am. So I'm just going to go right into like our main topic of discussion today. I have a friend right here with me. She's going to be talking about how she navigated our admission process. She's going to be sharing like a different perspective from mine because she's in the STEM field. So over to you, Nike. I am just going to ask you to introduce yourself. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you, Esther. Hi, everyone. My name is Adenike Shitu. Currently, I'm a first year PhD student in molecular and developmental biology at Cincinnati Children's Hospital Medical Center, Cincinnati, Ohio. I had my master's degree in molecular biology and biochemistry from Bowling Green State University in 2021, and right now, I'm currently in my PhD, an alumni of OHU microbiology department. And I think that's a little bit about myself.
Awesome. All righty. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Welcome, welcome, welcome to my channel, Nikki. And thanks again for doing this. I really appreciate it. So I'm just going to start by asking that how did your study abroad journey start, right? Like what sparked that interest and why the US?
Okay, thank you. My journey to study abroad started a long time ago. I think from my first year in undergrad. That was how far it started. But
Wow.
to be very specific about the process, since I can say it started in December 2018, because that was when I just made the final decision. I was in my um National Youth Service Corps, serving Nigeria. And then I was looking into the next year, 2019, and I was like, okay, girl, what do you want to do with your life? So that was when I was like, okay, I think I can go for my international degree that I've always wanted from my first year undergrad. So that was, I actually had the desire from my first year in my undergraduate studies, but then there isn't much I could do then. So I can say it started in 2018. And what sparked the interest for me was, like I said, from my first year, I've had the direction that, okay, I'm studying microbiology. For me to advance well in this area of field, in this career, I have to have like an international degree, because biology is not, or microbiology or generally, is not well appreciated in developing countries like Nigeria and other West African countries, and even generally African countries. And why the US? I just like United States. I know that I can come here, on scholarship. If I graduated my first degree with good grades, I know that I can come here with scholarship, in which I wouldn't have to pay a dime for my education. So that was why I that was why I decided to come for the US. And then the fact that US is, the world global leader. So aside of that, and then in every field, I feel like US in research, they are top notch. I mean, China also is, but there is always this language barrier. But the United States, it's an English speaking country, and then they can afford me the opportunity to come here without having to pay for school fees, and getting to work as an international student. So I think with all those little information and knowledge that I have back then, that was just what spawned my interest in the United States.
Oh, I was muted. But yeah, definitely. Like I agree with that funding part. Like there's just a lot of funding opportunities here. So many schools, so many funding opportunities. So definitely agree with that part. So now moving on, I'm going to be asking questions about like your school search process in general. So what factors did you consider when you were selecting schools to apply to? When you want to apply, when you started the application process, what did you look at? What factors did you consider?
All right. While I was searching for programs in general, the things I was looking out were the programs specific. I was not looking at the names of schools or other things. I was looking at the program. Do they have what I wanted? So primarily when I was searching, I was most especially for my PhD admission, I was looking into programs that can afford me the opportunity of having a minor. So even though I'm in a molecular and developmental biology program, I'm working towards getting a minor in biomedical informatics. So those are the things that I was looking forward, that I'm not streamlined into a particular field in my PhD study. So that was one of the things that I was looking at. Also, I was looking at the research. What are they doing? Do they have diversified research? I mean, I have my research interests, but what I've learned from people, what people have told me is that yes, you may be interested in this, you may be interested in stem cells, immunology, or bioinformatics, and later on you realize that yes, this is not made for me, and then you have to switch into something else. So I was looking into programs that have very diverse research areas that are interesting to me, even though I have my primary interest. But like, aside my primary interest, do they have other exciting research, groundbreaking research, to be specific, aside from outstanding? And then another thing that I considered was, yeah, as you can see, I'm a black I'm a black girl. So I was looking, so before I applied to any school, I looked at the student profile. I looked at, do they have like international students or black students? And then if they don't, because actually saw some programs that from their first year through to like fourth year, fifth year, they do not have any black students. And I was like, oh wow, that's not that doesn't say a lot about diversity and inclusion. I mean, that's just me. It's not being biased or being racist, but I feel like if they are claiming to be diverse, then it should show in their student profile. So that was one of the things that I was looking at. Do they have like diversified students? So if they don't, that was one of the. It's just being biased. So aside the fact that, and then I was looking at location. I'm a student. No matter how much you're gonna pay me, I can't afford, living. It's stupidly expensive, crazily expensive, living in black cities like New York and California. So I was just trying to, as much as possible, trying to avoid schools in extremely expensive cities. So those are the things that I was looking into. So yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I'm just hearing you talk. Like I'm just kind of comparing. I'm like, some of the things that we both consider when we're trying to apply to schools, and I could notice a bit of difference, of similarities, and everything. But definitely, I like that part about diversity. I think it's really important, especially even finding community. That really helps you find some sort of community, because you don't want to go to a place where there's nobody that looks like you and you might be alone. But yeah. I'm not going to waste time. It's your experience that we're sharing. So what steps did you take when applying to like the school? So maybe you reached out to maybe a professor or something, or but what steps did you take when you were applying, and what materials did you submit as well?
Okay. Thank you. So now I'm gonna be specific, in general, in STEMs, in STEM programs. Sorry, not STEMs. In STEM programs generally. If you want to apply for a master's degree, most especially you need GRE. And for PhD, some STEM program may waive it, like like biomedical or biological sciences, some other sciences may waive it. But if you're looking into PhD programs, some may waive it, for your PhD, in as much as they can prove that yes, you have a lot of research experience.
Yeah.
But for masters, it's required. So for PhD, my current PhD program, I did not submit GRE, and then but for my master's, I had to submit GRE in addition to the general requirements, which includes letter of recommendations, statement of purpose, your transcripts. I actually applied to schools that only required unofficial transcripts. I cannot stress sending official transcripts from Nigeria. And then because of the timeline for me, and then the lockdown during COVID and all of that, I didn't do West. So I did not do West. I didn't do West for my master, so I did not do West for my PhD application as well. So I had to streamline my application into schools that do not require West and also unofficial transcripts. So those are the materials that I submitted for my application for my master's and PhD, just the general. except that for my masters, I had to submit a GRE. And so what step did I take in applying? So one of the steps, yeah, I reach out to professors. It depends on the program you're applying to, right? So yeah, some will ask that you have to have a professor or a professor or a PI, which is principal investigator, or a research, professor in their program that you're going to be working with that's going to fund you. But for my program, it's not required. But for my masters, I had to reach out to professors that are taking in students into their lab that would want to take me and admit me as a student into their to work in their lab. So I reached out to professors. Yes, I asked a lot of questions. Reaching out to the graduate coordinator. I mean the secretary of the program, actually, not the grad coord. I know a lot of them don't reply emails, but you just have to learn the science of sending emails to professors, which is include being precise and concise. You don't have to say too much information. Just make it straight and direct. So I think I reached out to professor. I asked a lot of questions from the graduate secretary, of the program, and then I reached out to a lot of students in the program because I was looking at, okay, what are the things do you think I can add to my statement of purpose? What are the things do you think I need to add to my CV? What do they look out for? What is the living status of the cities like? I mean, aside from other things, and then research, and then navigating grad school and all of that. So those are the things that I did reach out to professor, I reach out to students, I asked a lot of questions that I was not clear about, about the program. And I just did a little bit of research about the program, definitely, to understand what is expected of me and see if I had the place in the program. So those are the steps that I think helped me with my applications.
Okay, that is really great. Thank you for sharing all those wonderful stuff. I think it's really important to like really reach out to folks currently in the program, even if it's like the graduate coordinator who oversees the whole admission process and things like that, or current students as well. And how did you get to connect with them? Did you check the websites? Did you go on LinkedIn? Like what how did you reach out to this? How did you know who to reach out to basically?
Okay, thank you. So, like I said, like I said, a lot of the programs, in fact, 90, a lot of the programs I applied to, 100% of the program I applied to, I made sure that they have like a black student, either an African American or someone from African descent. I'm not being racist. This is not being racist. It's just finding someone, finding the community. Do you
Yeah.
understand? Like Esther said, it's finding a community. So I go to the websites and then search for their students' profile and then reach out to students. A lot of the students I reach out to are like blacks. I reach out to some Nigerians in the current program, and then there are programs in which they don't have Nigerians. So I reach out to like the Black Americans in the program. And so what I did was, a lot of the programs, they have like their student profile, and in their student profile, they have the students' email addresses. And the ones that do not, I just go on LinkedIn and
Mhm.
just search for the school program, and then it will give me notification. And then if I see a black student or a Nigerian or an African, generally, if Kenyan, Ghanaian, I don't mind. I just reach out to them and be like, oh yeah, I'm a prospective student in your program. What tips do you have for me? So
Gotcha.
I use LinkedIn as a resource and also the program websites.
Okay, all right, that is good. That is good. And one more question related to like the material. I know you did. You said you mentioned that you did GRE for your masters, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I shied away from GRE because I just was not interested in that.
Yeah,
um,
I
but
understand.
like, how did you prepare for like GRE?
Oh yeah, I mean GRE is not easy to come by. It's really really tricky. But how I prepared for it, basically I had a community of friends, right? So even though it was virtual, right, we had this WhatsApp group that that I was added to, which was some GRA group like that years ago. It has been deleted now because a lot of the people they have gained admission. So, uh, So I was added to this GRE group, which I found from Naira Land. It's funny, I know. But then I connected with people from Naira Land because I was trying to write GRE, and then I was asking questions on Naira Land. And someone just recommended, okay, since you're writing GRE, just come along. Let's me add you to this GRE group on WhatsApp. So there I have this community of people that, helped me. And then study that helped me in my preparation. And then in studying GRE, I was not, like I said, it was during my service year, so I had not a lot of time, but a lot of time as well to prepare for it. But it took me a couple of months. I'm not sure how long it took me right now, because I think I started studying, but then my phone got spoiled because I was away, and then I have to get my laptop to be using. So it's just a lot of stories behind that. But yeah, it took me a couple of months to study and prepare for it. And don't ask me for my scores because it was not the best scores, but it was good enough. It was good enough to get me admission and funding at Bowling Green State University. So
Okay, all
that was
right,
good.
that is good, and you're here now, so don't worry, I'm asking for your score. Okay, so now moving on now, the whole admission and everything. So after you gained admission, because you're here, so we know you gained admission. What
Mhm.
was the visa interview like, right? Because one thing to gain admission, is another thing to get the visa to actually come to the US.
Mhm.
So what was your visa interview like, and how did you prepare for it?
Oh yeah, my visa interview, like every other visa interview, is very brief, like 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes. Um, how did I prepare for it? So it was not. It was quite. I'll be sincere. I was a little bit tense because it's just like you have 5 minutes to determine whether you all these processes you've been doing for like the whole year is gonna advance or you're just gonna stay back.
Yeah.
So it was the prep was, I had to reach out to a lot of people. I mean, had interviews with you, right? Prep interview with you, I remember. And how was it like? So I had my interview at Abuja because that was the only time that was available for me at that time. So I had the interview at Abuja. When I go to the VO, the VO asked me, "Oh, I submitted my papers." He asked me that, "Oh, I can see you're going to Bowling Green State Universities for your master's program," and it was like, "Yeah, I see you have a scholarship. Tell me about it." And I told him, "Oh, yeah, I'll be working as a teaching assistant. I'll be assisting in grading, proctoring exams, and assisting students in the labs." And I was like, "Oh, really cool. So who will I be working with?" And I was like, "Yes, I haven't been assigned, someone I'll be working with for my TA, but then I have a potential research advisor that I'll be doing research with." And I don't think he was satisfied with my with my response. He was probably thinking that, "Oh, since you've been offered a job, this is a job, right? I believe that you should have someone that you'll be working with." But that was not how it works. So I think with that, he was not satisfied with my response. So he placed me on administrative processing, which is called AP in short, for short. And you know, I think he just reached out to the graduate coordinator or graduate secretary in my program, and I went for the interview on Monday, and on Wednesday, I got that my visa was granted. So that was my visa experience. It was pretty brief, a little bit of glitch, but then since my admission and my and my scholarship were legit, so there was not much of a problem.
Oof, that must have been scary. The administration process, like, I can't, because
Yeah,
oof. But thank God, that you're
yeah,
here now. Just one thing though, like, what materials did you take with you when you were going to the embassy?
materials. So that was a long time ago, but if
I
I
know.
remember, I think the DS 160
Mhm.
proof of payment of your application, of your visa interview. I think you have to show that. Um, DSC 150, 160 confirmation slip, I think. Then
Yeah.
you have to have the size term passports that they require. You have to go with your I-20, which will be sent from your school. That's very, very important. You have to go with your passport, international passport, up to date. I mean, based on my understanding, I feel like they say the requirement is like it has to be at least 6 months before expiration. So I don't know how that is anymore, but I feel that's one of the requirements. And then you have to go with the confirmation slip of your service fee.
Yeah.
So I think basically that was it. A lot of other things are like they'll tell you, yeah, bank statements, if you have deficits and all of that. I had like $3,000 deficit, but I was not asked. I mean, I went with some bank statements, but it's my dad's actually, but it was not hacked, so there was no point on showing it because it feels like the price, the amount was just too small to not be overlooked. That was just my own experience. But then I went with a lot of other things, because you read and read about all these things, and then they'll tell you go with your CV, go with your dad,
Yeah.
go with your dad, and all of that. Go with your certificates, my undergrad certificate. Go with
No.
your transcript. Go with everything. So I'll just say that just to be safe, because a lot of people have been in interviews with VHO and they asked for some weird stuff. So just to
Mm-hmm.
be safe, it doesn't cost you anything. Just get them all together and just go to the embassy. It doesn't cost you anything. So
Yeah, well, you did a great job of remembering a lot of those documents. As you're saying some, I was like, oh yes, I took that, like, yeah, and you're right. As if you can take all the documents that you have in this life, just put it in a file and go with it. It won't hurt. So yeah. So now moving on, right? In retrospect, overall, like with the admission process and visa process, what do you think worked for you, and what did not? If there was anything that you think maybe did not really work for you.
oh, okay. What worked and what didn't work? I can say for me personally, one lesson that I've learned is about these application processes, applying early. So that worked for me a little bit, and then it did not, in the sense that my master's program, I really applied later. I applied like I think ending of May. That was really late. But then I got my offer like in 2 weeks later. But then my PhD program, my current PhD program that I'm in right now, I applied like I think last week in October or the first week in November. I'm not quite certain, but it's either of the two. And then before I got interview invite for the program, it was actually the last interview I took. I've had like multiple interviews before that, and you look at it like, okay, applying early November, late October,
Mhm.
that's quite early, but to them it's not early enough because my I was part of the people that was interviewed for the last batch. So that means that number one, I applied late, and then I mean not quite late, but like I applied late, and my admission application materials was not considered early. So that was just it. So it worked for me. I applied late in that. So I applied early. I mean, to me, I applied early, but it was late. But then the product program that I applied in May, like very, very late, I still got in. So I think applying early is one thing, and then it's just one thing that worked for me. And then it also didn't work for me for my master's program, so that's just what I've said about it. Yeah,
Alright.
but still apply early. That's the best.
Yeah, I agree with applying early. I mean, some programs have very strict deadlines of maybe like December 1, December
Mm-hmm.
15 and everything.
Exactly.
So just check your program's website and see like, okay, what is this program competitive? Like, what is it like, just to get a feel of, okay, I can apply late, I can apply early, but definitely apply early, don't apply late.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then just as we kind of like come to the end, because we're going to gradually round up now. um Overall, I'd like to ask, like, what was your experience like in the program? So like your master's program, what was your experience like? And then even you already started your PhD program already. To like overall, what has your experience been like in the US, studying in the US?
In general, what I would say is grad school is stressful. No caps. Like there's no even two ways about it. If you hear grad school, just know you are in the stress mode. That's what it is. You're gonna be drilled, you're gonna be stressed mentally, emotionally, academically, everything you can imagine. They're gonna stress you, but then it's for your good. But it's the stress, but the stress is just too much. That's one of the things that I feel like that's has been my experience. Another thing is imposter syndrome. Oh my god. Yes, I said in my program, right? I said that I was looking at for program that have black students and all of that. But in my current class of like 17 students with some medical students, doing MD, PhD, I'm the only black, like the only black girl, the only black boy. You can imagine. So the imposter syndrome was real. I felt out of place a lot of time. I feel like, how did I get here? And the fact that I do not have a biomedical science background, I feel like that's also, it just feels like you're just like, this place is not meant for me. Like, I'm not qualified to be here. So, but then, you keep growing and keep growing, and you feel like, okay, yes, we can do this, and you keep growing. Those are my one of the those are two of the most important experience that I've had in grad school. I felt like that in my masters as well, but that was not as much as here because there I have like some black students, but still I still feel like, oh my god, I don't think I'm smart enough for this grad school. And then another experience is, yeah, it's stressful trying to balance. You have to find a balance of work and life. Otherwise, you just wouldn't have a life outside your academics because you'll be bombarded with assignments, with quizzes, exams, research. The list is endless. So,
Yeah, I highly resonate. Oops. Wait, did you say something?
I said you just have to find a balance for it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I resonate. I agree. I mean, when I was in grad school, it was very stressful, especially like working, going to class, and everything. I know back then when I was in Nigeria, people would be like, "Oh yeah, schooling in the US is easy." I'm like, I came here. I'm like, what? If this
No.
is easy, what? It is
No.
definitely not
That's
easy.
that's not a true advice. That's not true.
Yeah. I think one question I forgot to ask you going to quickly ask it as we come to the end, like, was how did you secure like funding? I think I forgot to ask that specific question. Like, how did you secure funding for your program?
Oh, okay. So I'm going to be talking about my two programs, right? My master's degree and my PhD. Um, so for me, for my all the programs I've been applying to, it's integrated into the program, right? Even though I have to like reach out to people so that I can work in their lab, and at the end of the day, they'll be the one to fund me based on the funding they have in their lab.
Yeah.
All right, but most of them are like their first year is just on the departmental funding, right? So they're just taking students that they feel like, okay, they are qualified for their program, and they fund them for the first year or for the first 2 years based on the cumulative funding from all the PIs or the departmental funding. And then, subsequent years, you're going to be funded by the grant or the money from your PI from their grant applications. So that was what it was for my master's and my PhD. But some other programs they will require you that yes, you have to have a PI. I mean a professor. Either ways, that's what it means. You have to have a professor that you're going to be working with. The professor must have money, must have like funding to take in students to take you into their lab or into their projects that you're gonna work with, and then from there they fund you. But then some are like general because in my first year, because you're working for the department as a TA, so you are generally working for the department. You're not working for the PI, even though you're working for the PI for your master's thesis project or your whatever project that you're working on. But the fact that you're working for the departments, or for whatever college you're working with, they'll be the one to, provide funding for you. So that was my experience.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. So the final question now, so what advice overall, like what advice do you have for those who are starting out the process or maybe they are already currently in the process? What advice do you have for people watching?
The advice I'll say is if you are currently in the process, keep it up. Don't relent. If you're about to start, the right time for you to start is now. Don't wait. Don't slack. Before you know it, you realize that you're out of time for fall 2022 admission. You are out of time, or you're admitted, and then there isn't funding because you were not considered early, and that's because you applied late. So the time is to start now. Number two is reach out to people. You need to connect with a lot of people. Reach out to people. Ask questions from the grad court. Ask questions from the professors. They are there. They will help you, but you just have to be strategic in your accent. It's not like you send like 10 paragraphs of email to a professor. They would not read it, they would not reply. It doesn't make sense. Just be concise, and go straight to the point, and just ask the questions and they will reply you. So whatever it is that you're not clear about, ask questions, and then reach out to students in your program. They have first-hand information about the program, about the school, more than you can imagine. And then keep it up. Just keep it up. Keep the faith. Just keep believing in yourself. You can do it. So that's my final advice. You can do it.
Yeah.
There is
So
scholarship. The sky is wide enough for you in the US, in the Canada, or UK, whatever it is that you want to do. Keep believing in yourself. You're gonna get the scholarship. You're gonna get the funding. You're gonna get admission, and you're gonna get the visa. I believe in you.
okay, all right. All
Yeah.
right. I like the motivation. You're even motivating me. I'm like, maybe I should go and do that PhD now. Uh,
Yeah, I don't know about that.
so yeah, I have to literally sit down and reflect before going ahead with that. But yeah, with that, we've come to the end of this video. Is there anything else you'd like to add, or are we good to like wrap up, round up?
No, like, subscribe, comment in the comment box.
Yes, I know. Thank you for that. Yes, so people kindly like my video, comment. If you're watching without subscribing, definitely subscribe. That helps to boost my channel's visibility. But yeah, that's it for today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, weekend, whatever time that you're watching, and stay safe out there. Bye.
Bye.
Okay.